behind the Lions Club. I met 3 people today that have lived here their entire life. They went to school here and they never heard of James Maynor. How can that possibly be happening? Well, let me tell you, on our City of Maynor website, if you go to the page that says Maynor History, they don't even mention James Maynor. I find that incredibly disgusting. Some of you guys have been on here for years and years and years. Do you not ever even read the website? Now, we have a plan that you guys call it downtown, but this is not a downtown. This is our little historic Main Street, and you just had a bunch of people out there pretending that you wanted input. You said you wanted input on the comprehensive plan that's current, but no one could give any input because nobody knows about it. Here's what they want for your downtown. This is what they want to turn our little historic Main Street in. They want it to turn into 6th Street, Austin. Now, they didn't show you that. How could you give your input? Here's a historic mansion that they bulldozed down on Town Street. They bulldozed this down. That should have been a restoration. Or we should have moved it over by the homestead. His homestead, as I said, is behind the Lions Club. They want to put townhomes in there. Now, they spent $318,000 on this comprehensive plan. They can't even read it, but they're using it to destroy our town. They have these little things called dashboards. It has 1 dot here for single-family homes. For Old Maynor, that should be 5 dots. But then they have 5 dots down here for mixed-use urban neighborhood. That's a bunch of baloney. So when you say, like on number 33, that you talking about naming things, respecting our history and all that, it's a complete charade. I'm really getting tired of you guys. Say one thing, do something else. You had 75 people respond to that survey. Half of them don't live in Maynor. That event cost the city $130,000. We had 4,000 people. We paid $31 per person to show up out there. Half of those people were kids, probably. Half of them don't live here. If you want to read something funny, you go look online at the 44 pages that these latest consultants did. It's ridiculous. Guess what? They figured out that most people got to it by 290. They have a whole big chart, 290. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. Now, I could talk for days about this stuff. We have a secret park right over here that we've had for 20 years. It's not even in that comprehensive plan. These people want to lie to us and tell us we can't park there. It's public roads. You can park anywhere you want to. That's Travis County. But guess what? Our sheriff is too chicken to tell us we can park there. These consultants are trying to run our city, but they're not trying to get any input. The city has become this organism that runs itself, and they could care less if any people actually live here. We have now about $80 million in the bank, and they can't put a dog run in 10 years. 80 million bucks. They can't put a dog run. So I don't want to. I had a free disc golf course ready to put in 3 years ago for free, and they couldn't even say thank you. So I don't want to hear any lip service about how much you love our children.
1 minute.
1 minute, thank you. I don't want to hear any lip service about you saying you love our excuse me, our children or our seniors. There's nothing to do in any park in town. Of course, the idea of me talking about these other 30 items in less than 2 minutes is absurd. Austin, Texas got that thrown out in court. They tried to do that in Austin, Texas, too. They got thrown out. It used to be I could talk about every single item, but they don't want the input. They don't want to tell you what's going on. They think they know better than us. They think the city is for them. They're supposed to serve us. They want us to serve them. Unreal. I put in, I've given them like 100 great ideas, but they don't want to do them because you know what the new song is? We don't like Robert. We don't like Robert. You saw how I was treated just a minute ago. I was trying to make sure that we got all the speaker comments in.
Time's up. Thank you, Mr. Beck.
Thank you very much. I'll talk to you in a minute.
Now we're going to public hearings. Conduct a public hearing
Excuse me.
on an ordinance amending. It's too late. You've used your time for 5 minutes. Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. We're going to number 1, public hearings conduct a public hearing on an ordinance amending Chapter 13, Utilities of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Maynard, Texas, by amending the title for Article 13.02, adding Division 6 to Article 13.02, amending definitions, declaring stormwater drainage to be a public utility, establishing a municipal stormwater utility system, providing for the establishment and calculations of stormwater drainage utility charges and credits, providing for penalties and appeals, providing for a severability clause, providing savings, effective date, and open meetings clauses, and providing for other related matters. John Beal. Hello, sir. You have 2 minutes, sir.
I am in favor of your new, I'm going to call it a drainage utility fee. The city of Maynard has control over about, I'm saying almost the entire Wilbarger Creek watershed. And if we get ahead of the curve with proper drainage stormwater controls. I own a farm a few miles east of here on Littig Road. When it rains, there is a staggering amount of water that flows through my property. And we're going to get, it's been 2 years since we've had a huge flood, but it's coming again. This is a health safety issue. I'm aware of a restoration project after the fact in Pease Park in Austin, Texas. That's about at 18th Street in Lamar, where they had to retrofit the park to protect lives in downtown at a cost of $1,000 a foot. And they did this after ignoring the stormwater and the drainage problems for many years. But the 1981 flood got them where they realized how dangerous flooding and drainage and how important that is to the city as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Marilyn Kalinsky. Hello.
Good evening. I just wanted to speak on this ordinance and say that I am definitely in favor of this stormwater drainage proposal. I also own land east of Maynard. And since Maynard has been developing at a very rapid rate, it has caused rapid changes to the water that flows over my land. It floods tremendously because there is now less absorption from the land that has now been covered with concrete. In addition, because of the lack of filtration of, let's just say, the fertilizers, the oil and everything, the quality of the water is markedly diminished. I used to hate frogs and wild fish and everything, and they're not living in that creek in my area anymore. So I definitely support this. I would also encourage the city to please increase the number and or size of the retention ponds that need to be required to hold this water so it can be released at a less rate, because the way it is now, it just floods. It just runs everywhere and floods. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joshua Hay.
Hello. So I'm speaking, I put against, but not really. I'm just against your methods for doing it. I don't understand why I still see trucks of employees gallivanting around the city every single day, not doing anything. It's the same people. I even wave hi to them as they drive by my house every day. So every once in a while, they'll take a shovel out and they'll throw some dirt from my yard onto the street and put some asphalt on something, but that's about it. So why can't they work the stormwater? That's my question to you. If you actually have a large amount of money, why can't you hire people already? Why do we have to establish a new fee? My problem with the fees is that your government, and you're going to double the fees eventually, and then you're going to triple the fees, and making it a utility means you can't get away from it. There's no exemptions. It's a utility. So why don't you do it another way? That's my issue with it. And why are we being charged higher than Round Rock? That's your comparison city. They have more population. They have more services. They have more employees, more costs. And yet we're paying a higher fee than them. Why? What's the point? So, in your calculation, my property does not meet your calculation. My house does not cover the amount of square feet of my land that you are charging me for. So I disagree with that. How do we fight that? How do we give credit to people who actually have large acreage compared to land, to a house? Like, I don't live in Lagos, I live downtown. I have more land that absorbs water. So why am I being charged the same as someone who lives in Lagos? Bottom line.
I'm sorry, time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Krista Swire.
Hello, my name is Krista Swear. I have a small ranch on North FM 973. The address is 15226. The first time that I came to a meeting here at City Hall was in May of 2024 when KB Homes was presenting their plans to build, 200 or 300 homes next door to me. Somehow I got put in this stormwater commentary, but it's fine because the problem that we're having is stormwater between KB Homes and Manor ISD constructing the sports complex. I am getting flooded every single time that it rains. My neighbor Benny Paul is getting flooded every time it rains, and my neighbor Jim and Alex are getting flooded on the other side of the school. I have been in communication with the city. I've been in communication with KB Homes. I've been in communication with Texas TCEQ, the newspaper, everybody you can think of, because nobody is responding. Your retention ponds that you guys are signing off on, or the engineers are signing off on, do not retain water. It is a joke. I have videos on youtube.com. My YouTube address is at CRISTAMARIE 2179. Every single time it rains, it floods. On your own calculations on this stormwater utility management program, you calculate that 3,000 square feet of pavement generates over 1,000 gallons of stormwater. Between MISD and KB Homes, you're looking at approximately
Time's up.
200 acres
Time's
of land. I get 2 minutes or 3 because online it says 3 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay, so
2 minutes.
quickly,
Time's up.
that is 1 million
Time's up.
gallons of water for 1
I
inch of
apologize.
rain.
Time is up. I'm sorry. Please.
You need to update your website because it says you have 3 minutes to speak.
Miss Belinda Clark.
Yes, I'm curious to know why property owners that don't have access to the city utilities, why they would be included in the storm water fee. And I also would like to know if the properties that already have retention ponds on them, if they'll be exempt from the fee if it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Brockenbrough?
Hi, my name's Ann Brokenbrough, and I live also on Wilbarger Creek, downstream of Manor. And I just wanted to say I'm for the proposed stormwater management program because I live on a ranch. It's a working ranch, and we are also, it's like the creek will flood a 1/4 mile wide. So whatever you can do to create more retention ponds near Manor or anywhere to slow the water down before it goes into Wilbarger Creek would be much appreciated. So I just want to say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Robert?
Thank you. My name's Robert Bataille. For the record, the Austin Bocce League is a 501c3 corporation, and you should have allowed me to talk. That's a separate person. That's what a corporation is. Regarding this, the problem is people putting in concrete, and I'll tell you the worst offenders right now is the new HEB plot over here and the one next to it that Barth Timmerman owns. We gave them $20 million. We gave him $9 million. And you have in the city coffers almost $86 million sitting in the bank, cold hard cash. Yeah, you borrowed another $200 million too. The point is, the people that put in the concrete need to pay for this stuff. Why am I being paid 10% more in my water bill? There's no new permeable stuff here. You guys can't even put in a sidewalk in Old Manor. You can't even fix the sidewalk across the street. You can't even put in a curb. You can't even fix the culverts so that the water goes from one place to another. We got these mosquito things festering because you can't even put a blade there. And what that does, these little patchwork quilt of roads that you fix, those are going to be destroyed in like 5 or 10 years instead of 15 to 20 because the drainage is horrible. This is what you always do. You take money from Old Manor and you put it to pay other people. We want the developers to borrow the money from the bank and pay for their own dang runoff. Is that hard to understand? I don't think so. Except that some of these people in this room are in bed with the developers and all they want to do is grow, 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 grow. They want us to have 500,000 people here. I don't want 500,000 people. Progress is a meaningless word. Growth is a meaningless word. There's good growth, there's bad growth. So I don't see why Old Manor should be charged anything for developments they put over there and there and there and there and there and there. We haven't added any permeable, or excuse me, non-permeable surface at all. Go
Time's
look
up.
at.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. 3 minutes is what it should be.
Number 2, conduct a public hearing. I'm sorry, is there a motion on the floor for number 1?
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 1.
I second.
Second by Councilmember Maria Musqua. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 2, conduct a public hearing on the levying of assessments in improvement area number 4 of the Maynard Heights Public Improvement District. Mr. Miller?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. It's good to be here. This first item is one of 4 items we're going to have for you this evening, and this one relates to the levying of assessments for the Maynard Heights Improvement Area number 4. It's the 4th improvement area of the Maynard Heights Public Improvement District. I realize that sounds kind of repetitive. So a couple of months ago, actually it's longer than that, it's in October 18th, the city entered into a reimbursement agreement with the developer which authorized the developer to go ahead and make certain improvements in improvement area number 4. And the idea would be that PID bonds would be issued, assessments would be levied to reimburse the developer for public improvements. So following that, the city intending to levy assessment and issue bonds gave adequate public notice of the intent to levy assessments. That was in the newspaper about 15 days ago, and notices were sent to the landowners of a hearing to levy assessments. The assessments are going to be used and they're going to be levied against each parcel within the district, and the assessments are going to be used to pay down PID bonds, which is the other item you'll be considering this evening. The bonds are going to be in an expected amount of $5.2 million, and so the assessments that are going to be considered tonight are going to be in that approximate amount. I'm sorry if I'm rushing through this. Please let me know if I should slow down, but essentially notice of a hearing has been made, and this hearing is to consider levying assessments on the property within improvement area number 4. Are there any questions about that? I apologize if I'm rushing through that. But
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 2.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions to this motion? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, conduct a public hearing on the issuance of improvement area number 4 bonds for the Manor Heights Public Improvement District.
Okay. Thank you. And this is, of course, the follow-up item to that. Having had the hearing to levy assessments, the next item is to have a hearing considering issuing bonds, which are going to be paid for with those assessments. The pricing information on those bonds, they were in the market yesterday. And so there are pricing terms and conditions that will be presented. We can do that now. It's up. Okay. At the regular agenda, those terms will be presented to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to,
Mr. Robert. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name's Robert Bataille. One thing I would like to know is why are we indebting ourselves, so to speak, for something these developers should do? This company is a corporation out of Delaware. I'd like to know who the investors are for them. I think they're some gigantic, multinational, humongous fat cats, so to speak. And I don't know why we have to buy bonds for them. Why don't they go to the bank and buy their own bonds? Why is that a problem? This guy's making out like bank. Both of these guys are probably making $10 million this year on all the bonds they're buying. Just because we're trying to save the developer 2 points on their loans? This is going to be like $30 million as they want to borrow. Let them go to the bank. They probably own several banks. If I become mayor and someone comes up before me and they're in a Delaware corporation, they don't have to file a stock report, an ownership every year. But if we subpoena them, they will tell us who the owners are. I want to know who the investors are. And if they can afford to do this stuff on their own, I don't want to use part of our available equity and so forth in the bond market. Now, these people may find some good rates for bonds. I appreciate that. But still, the bottom line is we're still paying our money and our available borrowing to cover these very, very, very wealthy corporations, some of whom are multinational, and who knows who they are. Maybe it's the mafia from Russia, for all I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 3.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did you get that? Okay. Any questions to the motion? Any questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 4, conduct a public hearing on an ordinance rezoning one lot on 0.26 acres, more or less, and being located at 310 West Murray Street, Manor, Texas, from SF1 Single Family Suburban to NB Neighborhood Business. Scott?
Evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So this property, it's located in between Mr. Jim's and the Manor ISD police station right there, like Murray and 290. It's currently zoned single family from when the city got zoning in the early 2000s. The building, it's the old Damon Belesia law office. So it's always been used. It was constructed as an office building. I'm not sure why it got single family zoning. That property's federal issues were resolved, and so it was recently purchased by the applicant, and they're looking to rezone it to neighborhood business to continue using it as an office. They currently have their real estate business in there, and they'd like to add additional offices to it. And so neighborhood zoning, neighborhood business zoning works for that. It's also compliant with the comprehensive plan. And when you get to the action item, Planning Commission did recommend approval.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 4.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Moreno. Are there any questions to the motion?
I have a question. Scott, did anyone have any response from the neighboring businesses or homes?
No.
Any more questions? Okay, there be none. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, conduct a public hearing on an ordinance rezoning one lot on 3.75 acres, more or less, and being located at 14122 FM 1100 Manor, Texas, from single family suburban to C2 medium commercial. Scott?
Sure. This property is about a mile and a half north of 290 on FM 1100. And it currently, again, has single family zoning from when it was annexed in about 2006, 2007, thereabouts. And that was the default zoning after annexation. It was never really the city's intention for it to be single family. That's just the default. This property, they're looking to do C2 medium commercial. The applicant is here tonight too, if you wanted to speak with them. Because they're planning to do an event center, and C2 allows an event center by right. And on the comprehensive plan future land use map, there is designated as employment center, which is for large office parks, industrial, and other commercial uses. So C2 medium commercial fits within the designation of the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission, and when you get to the recommendation for that, they did split their vote 3-3. They had recommended C1 because under C1 an event center requires a specific use permit, and some of the commissioners felt that they wanted additional oversight on the event center itself. But there was obviously a split for that, and it was 3-3. So the motion that was forwarded to you all was a denial because it failed. So if you were inclined on the action item to approve this, it would require a supermajority. But again, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And again, the applicant is here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm going to call your names. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Mr. David, is that Ullman? Yeah. Okay.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
2 minutes, sir.
Okay, I own the land right next to the property this gentleman is talking about, which I've got y'all's little drawing. Y'all got me as a single family. I run that land as agricultural. I want that land switch back to agricultural. Second thing is that land has always been allocated as a single family. The people to the right of that land has built $400,000, $500,000 houses. I was planning to build a house on my 34 acres because I back up right to the side of it and the back of that property on there. And if y'all be turning it into commercial, because it's going back with all these other people saying, City of Maynard annexed me into that into y'all. Y'all have not provided me any water, sewer, electricity. Y'all say y'all give me the police department, but I hate to tell y'all this, the sheriff department's a heck of a lot better on response than y'all do, because the way my property is, partial of it's in the City of Maynard, partial of it's in Travis County, and I had to call. Something happened on that property. I had to call the City of Maynard Police Department. They came up, looked at the gate, said it wasn't theirs. I called Travis County. They showed up, took care of the business. Like I say, your police department is the worst I've seen in anything, but y'all don't give me anything. If y'all setting up a commercial business, because y'all have lied over several years, because I own some land over off Boys D Arc. The developer wants to develop into a bunch of acre tracts. They were supposed to put detention ponds. Well, they're selling those tracts now. There's no detention ponds. This commercial property they're talking about, they're not going to put any detention pond that runs through my property that goes into Will Barger Creek. And I'm sorry about all these people that have flooding issues. Your problem with Will Barger Creek is you're letting people buy floodplain land, which what happened in Onion Creek that flooded, and they're dumping dirt and trash and filling that property and damming it.
Rocio Velasquez. Two minutes. Thank you.
Hi, good evening to all. My name is Rocio Velasquez. I've been a resident to the Maynard area for about 18 years now. Me and my family have noticed that Maynard has had a lot of growth within the past few years, and we wanted to be part of the growth. Our vision with buying this piece of land at 14122 FM 1100 was to bring to our community a new modern indoor event center. And with research that we did, we determined that there is very limited options here in Maynard for that. And do you guys have any questions?
No, if that's all you have, you still have a minute or close to it.
Okay.
When you
If
say
you wouldn't say
event
anything
center,
else.
like, give me a vision. Give me your vision.
It's going to be something roughly about 5,000 square feet. Everything's going to be indoors.
Councilmember Weir, we actually have to wait till we get to that agenda item to be able to speak on it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 5.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do we have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Almasquam. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, conduct a public hearing on an ordinance rezoning one lot. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Okay, I read the wrong one. We're going to start this again. We're actually on number 5. Oh, number 6. Okay. Conduct a public hearing on subdivision concept plan for Maynard Commons Northeast Commercial, 18 lots on 33.93 acres, more or less, and being located at the northeast corner of the intersection of US Highway 290 and FM 973, Maynard, Texas. Scott?
Sure. So this concept plan is for the Maynard Commons Phase 3. They're at the northeast corner of 290 and 973. It's 18 lots, so there's 17 that are commercial lots, and 1 is a drainage lot at the corner. It has been approved by our engineers, so when you get to the action item, we are recommending approval, and the Planning Commission is also recommending approval. It includes new public streets that come out of Greenberry, that would connect to 290 and then also over to FM 973 at the intersection where the new Manor Commerce Boulevard, that's part of the Manor Crossing development, is going to intersect with 973. So that would be a four-way stop that's signalized. There isn't a full intersection on 290, and all of their access on 290 is right in, right out without any additional signals. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Mr. Robert? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Robert Bataille. This is a parcel, or excuse me, this is a development. Any development over 10 acres, commercial development, is required in our codes to have a plaza. Despite what Scott Dunlap says, it's not 10 acres of a parcel, it's 10 acres of a development. This is owned Barth Timmerman. By the way, Mr. Scott Moore, on 19, you have in there an agreement for Timmerman spot. Timmerman has 2 N's at the end. You misspelled that on 19, so please correct that before the mayor signs it. Now, speaking of a plaza, some people don't know that a plaza is what they have in European cities. Mexico has a plaza in every city. It's a town square where you have fountains, you have statues, you have beautiful trees, perhaps. You have places where people can come out and congregate. That is an entrance to our city. We need a beautiful, beautiful plaza there. Maybe a water tower type looking thing. Maybe next to it, of course, is another situation where they've got a big development and they're required to have a plaza. What we want to do is we want to have Timmerman competing against HEB to put in a good plaza. And since we gave him $9 million to help him, and by the way, there's a blatant conflict of interest because Barth Timmerman is on our CIF Community Impact Fees Commission. He's been a fixture on there. That's a blatant violation and conflict of interest. And we're supposed to have an ethics commission, and you haven't started it yet. I gave you an ethics violation, about 10 of them. When I give you a letter about ethics violation, you're supposed to bring that commission together, and I haven't even heard back from you. They changed their response time from 3 days to in a timely manner. They were supposed to respond to us in 3 days, but they changed that because they don't want to respond to me. You hear what I'm saying? And you were supposed to be three minutes, by the way. They changed all the speaking time because they didn't like me coming up here and telling them how
Time's
things
up.
are.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Oh, my pleasure. You can't, if you only knew.
Do you have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 6.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Onaswa. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 7, conduct a public hearing on a revised subdivision concept plan for New Haven, 261 lots on 91 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Greg Lane and FM 973, Manor, Texas. Scott?
Sure. So this concept plan, it was previously approved. They did revise the PUD, so the zoning for it was revised. They reduced the lot count from 272 residential lots to 261, and the parkland and open space increased a little bit. They did it because they modified their street layout to work a little better with the topography. But because the changes were substantial under our code, they had to refile the concept plan and preliminary plat. So the concept plan is before you. The concept plan is consistent with their revised PUD. The Planning Commission does recommend approval. So when you get to that action item, there are, I believe probably a speaker for it. One of the neighbors, Mr. Lutz, they're here tonight. They're working with the developer for a street stub out and wastewater connections. And so they've had a lot of communication on that. So when you get to your motion, we're just going to ask that you kind of include something related to that street stub out and his wastewater connection, just so it's on the record. But it is, the parties have all agreed, and it's all there, where his street stub out needs to be on the new Anderson and out of the new subdivision. But just the recommendation that's on your summary for me, we'll discuss. It'll be a little different. But again, we are recommending approval. But yeah, if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Mr. Letts?
My name is Jim Lutz, and I live on 14812 FM 973. We've been there since 1977 on a farm, and we do approve of number 7, the revised subdivision concept plan for New Haven, which is providing us with an access of a road easement to our property and wastewater, which we didn't have before. So we are in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bell? 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name's Robert Bataille. I would mention that since we pay you guys money now, maybe you should go look at the video of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings instead of having to rely on Scott Dunlap to tell you what they do every time. I'm basically in favor of this thing, but what I'd like to know is why don't they ever show us what the park is going to be? They've been working on this thing for like over a year. We still don't know where's the park. Where's the parking? What's going to go in the park? Are there going to be any lights anywhere? They kind of have agreed to put in 2 ping pong tables. These are big $3,000 ping pong tables. But are they going to have lights there? Is that the only thing? You guys think an active park is like an empty parking lot, so people can go roll in the grass with the fire ants, I think. We need amenities. Also, you keep putting in trails without parking. What good's having a trail? That's a beautiful trail they got going there. I want more parking down at that water tank down there. What good is having this network of trails if we can't go there and park there and go to the trails? Is this hard to understand? So basically, I appreciate what they're doing, and they're going to put in some park money, some in lieu park fees. I think, I don't know, 150, 200,000 or something. Why don't we help them with the parks with some of our money? We have $800,000 for the parks. You guys can't put a dog run in. Why don't we put in a pickleball court over there? See, they're always fighting to have it be a neighborhood park instead of a public park. And that's what this dynamic is. We need public parks in all of our little neighborhoods. They need to share with everyone else. Like my parks plan. Remember, I did a parks plan about a year ago, 50 pages. I put stuff in every single park. You guys can't even look at it because you're embarrassed because it's so much better than anything you've ever done. I want to put a Harriet Tubman mural in this park and you can't even look at it. I mean, come on, man. This could be good, but we can raise it up. But you have to ask for it.
Thank you, Mr. Battle.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 7.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll go straight into consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by the mayor or a council member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Number 8, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the city council minutes of May 1st, 2024 regular meeting. Number 9, consideration, discussion, and possible action on accepting the April 2024 City Council monthly reports. Number 10, consideration, discussion, and possible action on accepting the April 2024 departmental reports. Number 11, consideration, discussion, possible action on a drainage easement in extraterritorial jurisdiction with required maintenance for lots 8 and 9 Kimbrough Road Estates. Number 12, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a right-of-way dedication easement for Old Maynard Taylor Road. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on a wastewater easement for the Oakwood development. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on an electric, water, and lift station easement for the Oakwood development. And number 15, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a partial release of a wastewater utility and lift station easement recorded in document number 202-301-2392. Is there a motion on the floor to accept and approve the consent agenda?
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as read.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Onasqua. Any questions for the motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to Yolandra for having a great Maynard Palooza. I had a really good time, and I thought that it was a good turnout before and after the rain, so it was good.
Great. Any questions or comments? None. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Going right into the regular agenda, number 16, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance of the City of Maynard, Texas, amending Chapter 13 Utilities of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Maynard, Texas, by amending the title for Article 13.02, adding Division 6 to Article 13.02, amending definitions, declaring stormwater drainage to be a public utility, establishing a municipal stormwater utility system, providing for the establishment and calculations of stormwater drainage utility charges and credits, providing for penalties and appeals, providing for a severability clause, providing savings, effective date, and open meetings clauses, and providing for other related matters. Is there a motion on the floor? Number 16, regular agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 742 of the City of Maynard, Texas, amending Chapter 13 Utilities of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Maynard, Texas, by amending the title for Article 13.02, adding Division 6 to Article 13.02, amending definitions, declaring stormwater drainage to be a public utility, establishing a municipal stormwater utility system, providing for the establishment and calculations of the stormwater drainage utility charges and credits, providing for penalties and appeals, providing for severability clause, providing savings, effective date, and open meeting clauses, and providing for other related matters.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Weir. Any questions to the motion? Any questions?
I have a question. Is there a reason why we were going to start in July?
That's from the approval today. If it is approved, that's just the earliest that it could be implemented. So we've been working with the consultant on all the commercial accounts. So all the residential is the same base rate. So all the commercial is being verified, and then it has to be uploaded into the system, and then the bills get verified that they print and it formats correctly. So July 1st is the earliest for that.
Am I correct in saying that the commercial parcels will be more than likely charged more than residential?
Yes.
Because of their coverage.
Yeah,
right?
they're 650 is the increment. So a single family home is 650, and then which is equivalent to 2,730 square feet of impervious cover. And so for commercial or non-single family residential, so that includes multifamily, every increment of 2,730 square feet is 650. And so I think like Walmart is like 150 increments. So their bill is almost like $750 a month. So it scales based on your impervious cover if you're non-single family residential. And then the way that it was determined as we were going through this process was that we would have the single base rate for residential.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments? There are none. All in favor? All opposed?
She may have a question.
Do you have another question? Yes, ma'am.
Apologize, I couldn't find my button. My question, I guess it's more for clarification. The benefits of the amount of the storm drainage fees, what it would go to, and if it is something like, I guess what was mentioned before in the public comments, would helping increase the size of the retention ponds, is that something that those fees could be attributed to, or is that something separate?
Yes, potentially. So the initial thing that the fee actually funds is a stormwater master plan, because we don't have one. Currently, we have a really old one for just this part of the city. We don't have anything outside of the historic part of town. And so we have something for the culverts, and it says if you put a driveway here, if you need a 12-inch culvert, 18-inch culvert, and that's it. So we don't really have any mapping or anything comprehensive for the rest of the city. And so the initial funding for this fee is to map the whole storm drain system and really figure out where things are failing, where things can be improved, and then the fee can go into improving those and being more proactive, because right now we don't fund any storm drain maintenance, or it's very, very minimal. It's about $25,000 a year, and then we spend about, I think, $79,000 for one employee for MS4, which is compliance for erosion. And so through the funding of the fee, we'll do the system mapping, and that will inform areas that we need to fix, but then also future capital projects. Because again, the funding, the initial fee has about $300,000 allocated each fiscal year for capital projects, but those are placeholder amounts. Once we have the system mapping, we'll actually put together a full CIP on storm drains, the storm sewer system. Then it goes on to also fund in the initial year a street sweeper and employee for that storm drain medallions. And then as it goes on, in about the third year of implementation, it becomes enhanced level of service, and we bring in 3 additional employees and actually fund a whole storm or a storm drainage department under Public Works. And we get dump trucks, gradles, Vector trucks, all the equipment they'll need to maintain the system.
Will that mean that there will be some improvements to the storm drainage in downtown?
Yes.
In Old Main?
Yes. Yeah, part of the system mapping is there's no detention ponds for the drainage here in town. It all just flows through the culverts and then goes right into Gillen or Wilbarger Creeks undetained. And so a big thing is figuring out regional detention for this part of the city, so we could start detaining those flows so they aren't impacting the creeks as heavily, and also it allows some of the materials that may be in the stormwater to settle out or be caught, so they're not going into the creeks themselves. And then the fee also helps fund maintaining the creeks and the actual waterways through the city. So Wilbarger Creek through the city, through Timmerman Park, there's a pretty deep drainage channel. If we needed to modify that, it could fund that. Same thing in the art park downtown. There's a big drainage channel that goes through that. So it could fund quite a few improvements.
Any more questions?
I have one more. Sorry. Is there sorry, lost it that fast. But is there a reasoning behind the number of employees that were going to be used, I guess, specific for that, but still under Public Works that we would be adding?
Yeah, the number of employees has worked with Public Works on what they would need to have an effective team to manage all the city's stormwater. Because right now we have streets, parks, water, and wastewater, and they're fairly small crews. I don't know how many is in each one. Maybe Matt would know, but they don't handle drainage. To some extent, the streets crew does if they're doing a little leveling up or trying to repair. But you may see in your subdivisions too, sometimes the cul-de-sacs areas, they get, our soils aren't great. They shift. You end up with a big pond as your cul-de-sac. and those were expensive fixes. This drainage fee would fund leveling up those streets for the drainage to help it flow and sort of regrading them. And so the money could be used in addition to our streets funding. So if we're repaving streets, we're repairing streets because if they're just cracked or damaged, but there's also drainage issues, maybe with a culvert on the side of it or inlets or just, there's ponding. You can supplement the streets repair funding with the drainage funding so you can do bigger projects or more projects or, have additional fixes in the area that you're trying to do.
Any other questions? No questions? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 17, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance of the City of Maynard, Texas, making a finding of special benefit for the property and improvement area number 4, the Maynard Heights Public Improvement District, providing for the method of assessment of special assessments against property and improvement area number 4, the district, approving an assessment roll for improvement area number 4, the district, levying assessments against property within improvement area number 4, the district, providing for payment of the assessments, providing for penalties and interest on delinquent assessments, establishing a lien on property within improvement area number 4 of the district, approving an amended and restated service and assessment plan, providing for related matters in accordance with Chapter 372 Texas Local Government Code, providing an effective date and providing for severability.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council Members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. We're here again for improvement area number 4 for Maynard Heights. You've already heard from your bond counsel during the public hearing portion of it. We do have various city consultants here this evening. For this agenda item, the main consultant would be P3. If you have any questions, I believe John Snyder is here for P3, and he can come up and answer any questions, or if you'd like more information, he can certainly come up.
Do I have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 739 regarding the levy of assessments in improvement area number 4 of Maynard Heights Public Improvement District and the approval of the 2024 amended and restated service and assessment plan.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions or comments to this motion? Any questions? No, there are no questions or comments. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Oh,
I have a question.
okay.
The information that I received today, is that for this particular item?
It's for the next agenda item.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 18. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Maynard, Texas Special Assessment Revenue Bonds, Series 2024 Maynard Heights Public Improvement District Improvement Area Number 4 project, approving and authorizing an indenture of trust, a bond purchase agreement, a limited offering memorandum, a continuing disclosure agreement, and other agreements and documents in connection therewith, making findings with respect to the issuance of such bonds and providing an effective date.
Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members, again, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. We do have your financial advisor to speak to you on the additional documents that you received today. And we also have the underwriter here today to discuss pricing. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to the financial advisor.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Scott. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris Lane with Samco Capital Markets, the city's financial advisor. Yesterday, we went into the market with the Manor Heights transaction for Improvement Area 4. Samco has double-checked all the numbers. We've had consultation with both of our underwriters, with the underwriting staff for this transaction, and we did very well. We were oversubscribed. We repriced a little bit, and there were several bond funds in purchasing the bonds, such as Nuveen and Goldman and the like, and high net worth individuals that were also involved in the transaction. The bonds sold at an NIC of 572, and the final amount of the bond issue was $5,400,000. So we recommend that the city approve this. And just as a reminder, this is not the city's debt. You are prohibited for paying for this debt. This debt is paid by the residents in that Improvement Area 4 by special assessments. So just as a reminder.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And your bond counsel's here with all the documents that he has prepared for you to sign if you have any questions about those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a motion? Oh, no.
We do have the underwriter. I don't know if they want to provide any. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have a question for the underwriter. I didn't quite understand about the credit spread. Was that something you could speak to?
That's something that they just put in there to tell you the difference between the spread of a normal, regular credit that's selling in the market today versus a higher interest, higher risk credit, which is what these bonds are. These are non-rated transactions. For instance, when we sold your bonds last month, you have a AA1 credit rating. These bonds are non-rated. So they're just trying to show you the spread between.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Mayor and Council.
Mayor Pro Tem. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry. If you choose to approve, if you can include the ordinance number in your motion, please.
Mayor Pro Tem, I failed to mention that the developer is also here if you have any questions for them.
Did he
Or
want
if they
to
have
say
anything.
anything? You want to speak? Thank you. Do you have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve of ordinance number 740, issuing Manor Heights Public Improvement District Improvement Area number 4 bonds and approving an indentured of trust bond purchase agreement, limited offering memorandum, and continuing disclosure agreement of issuer.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Weir. Are there any questions or comments to the motion? Any questions? There are no questions. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 19, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a resolution authorizing the submission of a master plan for parks, recreation, and open spaces to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Mr. Gandalf.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Council. Tonight we're asking for a, Tonight we are asking for a resolution to authorize the submission of the master plan and the additional survey information to the Texas Parks and Wildlife. This is the first step in applying for a outdoor recreation grant. This is a necessary step. It is worth 20 points in the scoring, and a great deal of the information that will be in the final application is going to come from what has been collected here.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-15, authorizing the submission of a master plan for parks, recreation, and open spaces to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Are we on a timeline for when we have to submit this information?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and was there an attempt to reach out to the school district to get any kind of input from the youth in the community?
No, ma'am. I've talked with Mr. Moore, and I hope that he will be able to schedule me for two different meetings, say in the next 7 or 8 days.
Okay. Because I see that we didn't have much of an input. And for as many people as we have here, I just think we need more. But I do understand for the grant, we are under a time restriction, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question. And this may go up. Is the document that we have here that kind of has the survey, is that what's going to be used for the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department grant?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Let me make sure I understood the question. Did you say this is a questionnaire that is suitable for Texas Parks and Wildlife?
The results from it.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what's going to be used. Okay. And so this grant would be, if possible, if they received it, it would be specific to want these things specifically, possibly, like that's what they would want to see.
The information that we get guides what we have to do, what they expect us to do, but it doesn't say how big or how many. For instance, we might build a pavilion that was big enough for 60 people to sit under, or we could build a pavilion that 20 people. So we have a lot of leeway. We also, as I reported the last time, when we have a concept map that we submit with the actual application, it will have all of these priority items on them, but where they eventually wind up on the property once we are funded is totally up to the city. What they're looking for when we hand them the map is to see, do you have enough room to put all of what you want to put in there in there?
Are we providing the concept map also along with the grant, or?
I am working with an engineer, and I have the concept maps that I brought to you the last time. I have concept maps that are about yay big that whenever I go anywhere, I'm taking those. I was doing surveys tonight before I came over. When I checked and found out where I was on the agenda, I thought I'd get busy and go back up to the cafe and see if I couldn't talk to a couple of people. And I do intend to continue with surveying.
Okay, thank you. Because I guess I'm kind of in agreement with Councilman Wallace. I guess depending on the deadline, if it's not this week, but depending on the deadline, I would like to see if there's a possibility for more items on here. It seems there's a variety, but maybe not an extensive variety. I would hate for it to be only kind of swayed in one direction of like amenities that maybe only a certain number of population might like for a little bit. But if there was something else, I didn't want that to hinder our availability if we were awarded the grant. So if there's a hard deadline stop, then please communicate it so that we can try to do what we can.
What would you like that is not on the survey?
You know, I can't say right now, but like if I was, I like how Jenny Lane Park has like the outdoor exercise kind of equipment too. And so like if there was maybe something that was in that space as well, since we don't really have like on this on that side of the park, none of um the subdivisions have like community centers that have that may have their own like equipment and things like that on the inside. So to have like that outdoor um park, I don't know what to call that, recreation, lift weight space.
Well,
But
there's always room in the survey for write-ins.
yes.
And if you wanted to say, set up a piece of paper and say, we would like to also see this included in the master plan and get signatures, that would be fine. I can append that to what we have done on the formal survey.
I agree. Thank you. I'd like, but I guess also, and even I just did it. I looked at something that was more closer to my adulting eye and not more towards the kids, or the kids that would be like in walking range or like riding their bicycle and something like that. And so, really getting more feedback from the students themselves or the youth themselves instead of their parents more. That's my concern, is just wanting to have something for them.
I
or
do
making
agree
sure.
with you. I see a distinct difference by age group. And the first 2 times I went out surveying on my own, I was in Tenement. And I have been focusing on older population. I have, I think, 23 more that I have that were not included in the survey. And I don't think that there were 2 of them who said skateboard park. So when those numbers are blended in, I think it's going to bring that down a bit.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
I say, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, we did put this online so we can see with your survey. Have you been seeing that results on the online yet?
Yes, sir. I requested that it be put online and that it be surveyable.
Okay. I just want to make sure that individuals do have an option if it's inactive online, that way they can still get the results that we can add to what we have, and then be able to try to get to one of the schools and see if we can get some feedback from some of the students.
Okay, and also, it would be a possibility, such as the basketball court and the skateboard park, to like put 2 in 1 kind of thing.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Next to each other. So if those are,
Yes, ma'am. Once you say basketball, that can be mini basketball. That can be my favorite is the ones that have the crank on the side, so you can lower the net so children can play.
okay.
And also, if you build a basketball court like this, you can also put baskets on the sides, and you can have people playing 4 games of half court at the same time on a court. So there's lots of different things you can do within a category.
And also, along with the tennis courts and the pickleball, they can double that.
Yes, ma'am.
That area can double as one or the other.
Yes, ma'am. Once you build the surface, it's a matter of where you drill the holes. Oh, I am so sorry. To mount the nets.
No, I'm just trying to, for the record, to show that several of these items on here can be dual purpose, I guess.
Yes.
So then we can fit more of what the community would like in the area.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have that survey posted on our social media? Okay, I'm looking forward to that one.
Any other questions?
What's the deadline to have this information? To submit to the grant.
When do we have to have the information submitted for the grant?
The last day of this month.
The 30th. Okay.
Any other questions?
By approving this tonight, does that mean that we approve this list only and there's no changes to it? So it'll be, I think it said at the last line, like it will be effective immediately from the passage. So it can't be altered or added. Like if we happen to get more things from online that says that's something different from this off the other.
Well, as I said, you can submit paper that says who you are and what it is that you would like that was not on the survey, and I will include that in the survey. But I can't change the survey itself at this point.
So based on the results, go ahead.
Excuse me?
And I'll also ask if this is correct. Resolutions right now, or at least the way the resolution stands, you can make any edits that you would like and direct your city staff or your city legal department to make edits, additions, or revisions that you would like to see on that resolution as part of your motion, if that's what you're wanting to do. Any other questions? No more questions? Right, there are no other questions. All in favor? All opposed? Additional questions? Yes, you would need to add it to the motion. You can, whatever items you would like to see added, it would need to be a part of the motion right now. Okay, so we're
So
going to.
there's already a motion on the floor.
Right. So if there's a motion on the floor, you can do a friendly amendment and have the person that made the motion accept that, and the person that seconded accept it, or you can do a substitute motion, and you would need a second.
What?
It hasn't been taken yet because you had a question, and so you had not placed whether you were completely in opposition or not. What you'd like to do is, again, you can either do a substitute motion or ask those that made the motions for a friendly amendment, if they consider it a friendly amendment, and what that amendment would be.
Yeah, what would the amendment be?
Sorry. I think the friendly amendment would be the request to add anything that comes into the other category to be included in the grant as well. So right now it just has the items here, but to include whatever is in the grant and under other. That's all.
Okay. I'd like to make a friendly amendment that we add to the resolution any other survey options to the resolution.
Amended motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
Who seconded? Whoever seconded would have to second.
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any additional comments or questions? No more comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 20, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a statement of work surplus services with GTS Technology Solutions. Bill?
Good evening. How are we? This is a presentation that we gave basically last year. We gave you a list of surplus materials and everything. We now have more that you now have a current list on, and we're asking that we approve the plan or approve the surplus list and the statement of work for GTS, who's a company that's on state award and many other awards and tips and everything else, who will facilitate the surplus of our equipment. They are completely CLETS and FBI compliant, but they don't necessarily need to be because we've already wiped all of the hard drives and everything. And this is truly equipment that is literally 5 to 10 years old. So it's junk.
Do I have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a statement of work for surplus services with GTS Technology Solutions and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement after legal review.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wallace. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions?
I do have a question. Sorry. What do they do to make sure that the hard drives are wiped clean? Follow-up thing to make sure that it's completely wiped clean?
Yes, what we did is we bought a tool that does a DoD wipe. It wipes the entire hard drive 4 times. It takes literally 3 days to do one hard drive. And it just puts a bunch of ones out on the hard drive surface and wipes everything out on it. Then we would load the hard drive up in that same device and see if there's any data on it. And in every case that we tried, which was like 1 out of 5 drives, there was no data that resided on it at all. The ones that couldn't go through that machine, we took a drill to and drilled through the platters.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro
Thank
Tem
you.
and Council.
Number 21, first reading, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance rezoning one lot on 0.26 acres more or less and being located at 310 West Murray Street, Manor, Texas, from SF1 single-family suburban to NB neighborhood business.
Sure. So yes, this is the property that's in between Mr. Jim's and the Manor ISD police station. They're right at 290 in Murray. One that's historically always been used as an office building, although it was vacant for many years. And they're just looking to have it rezoned to neighborhood business to continue its use as an office building. And the staff is recommending approval, and the planning commission also recommends approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I make a motion to approve the first reading. To approve the first reading of an ordinance rezoning one lot on 0.26 acres more or less and being located at 310 West Murray Street, Manor, Texas, from SF1 single family suburban to neighborhood business in B.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions to the motion?
Scott, I have a question. Are they already meeting the code requirements for a neighborhood business, like with the number of parking spaces and trees and exits and stuff, and ADA?
So the life safety portion, that's part of their COs that they need. So there's any of that, they would have to bring in compliance. The way our non-conforming code works, if you switch for a tenant to a new tenant, that's pretty much the same use. You don't necessarily need to bring the site into compliance. So even if it doesn't necessarily meet our codes now, since it's still an office and it was an office before, they don't have to like modify their parking that they have, so they can just continue to operate out of it. If they want to lease to a tenant, if they file first with a certificate of occupancy, and it's, say they want to turn the first one to a restaurant or something, at that point, since that's a more intense use, they would have to modify the site.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 22, first reading, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance rezoning one lot on 3.75 acres more or less and being located at the 14122 FM 1100, Manor, Texas, from SF1 single family suburban to C2 medium commercial.
Sure. So this is the property about 1.5 miles north of 290 on FM 1100 that is looking to do C2 medium commercial. It's currently zoned single family from when it was annexed. The comprehensive plan has it as employment center, the 1100 corridor, which is geared towards more industrial office parks and commercial uses. So the requested zoning is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. So we are recommending approval. The Planning Commission did have a lot of discussions about the use as an event center and how that could affect the neighbors, which is why they put forward a motion to zone it C1 light commercial, which you all can do as well. You can approve any lesser commercial zoning. So C1 light commercial, neighborhood business or general office. But the C1 light commercial requires an event center to have a specific use permit. So they would have to come back and then apply for that permit and have site plans and information on their hours and how much it's going to be outside or inside. Really anything that you all wanted to know about how they were going to operate in order to have that permit. So that was the discussion that the Planning Commission had, but they still split 3-3. So if you were inclined to approve any zoning, it would require a supermajority of 5 votes.
Is there a motion on the floor? Oh, go ahead.
For the, am I correct in stating that the owner of the property is also willing to increase the setback from the other residents next to them? There's a specific setback they're supposed to have, but they're willing to increase the setback to make it more in order to not be a disturbance?
They're here if you'd like to speak with them. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening to all. Yes, that is correct. Originally, we looked at the setbacks the city sets, and they're to be 10 on each side, and we're potentially looking to have 25 from each side. So much more setbacks than what is required.
Okay, you also said that your event center would possibly hold 300 people,
Yes, ma'am.
and your parking would accommodate 300 people?
Yes, ma'am.
Was said at planning and zoning. There is a neighbor directly next to the, sir, there is a neighbor directly next to them who used to formerly own that property, if I'm not or her mother used to own that property. So she had a complaint about it being an event center, because she's right next door to it. That's why I asked the question about the setbacks and it not being a disturbance to other people. Also, trying to You said all events would be held strictly inside
Yes.
and no outside partying in the parking lot.
No.
And also, how many people would you employ?
We're thinking right now, we're just in the process of getting everything together, but we're thinking that we could probably employ 15 to 20 people, depending on the size of the event, and what if there's a need to employ more people, then we're willing to do that as well.
While she's up here, do y'all have any other questions?
I have one. Did you have any specific reason for a C2 instead of a C1? I guess knowing the difference between the two.
Yes, we're looking to see the C2 because it wouldn't require for a specific use permit, but we're willing to go down to C1 and do the process. We're just trying to be compliant right now to see whatever you guys would recommend. We're willing to do it. We're a family-owned business, so we're just starting out. We don't have a lot of experience, but we're willing to work with you guys.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first reading of an ordinance rezoning one lot on 3.75 acres more or less and being located at 14122 FM 1100 Manor, Texas, from SF1 single family suburban to C1 medium commercial.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry.
Oh, light commercial.
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions? Any other questions or comments? Okay, if there be none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 5-1.
Was it 5-1? Okay. No.
Now, can I ask
You
you a
voted
question? How come she got to speak, but I didn't get to speak about the pond in the back of the property and there's a flooding when it comes through there? It goes straight into my property.
Mayor Pro Tem, you may continue the agenda, or if you'd like to address the question, but the agenda item has been voted on, so you need to continue the agenda item.
Thank you. We'll move on. So that was a 5-1 vote, correct? Okay. Number 23, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a subdivision concept plan for Manor Commons Northeast Commercial, 18 lots on 33.93 acres, more or less, and being located at the northeast corner of the intersection of US Highway 290 and FM 973, Manor, Texas. Scott.
Sure. So this concept plan, it has been approved by our engineers, so we are recommending approval. The Planning Commission has also recommended approval. It's 18 lots. There's 17 developable commercial lots and one drainage lot, and again, it includes extending Murray Lane out of Greenberry to a smaller roundabout with an extension to US 290 and then over to FM 973. So Greenberry would have additional ways out. Right now, they only have the one. And then this is planned to be just retail, restaurant, hotel uses.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the subdivision concept plan for Manor Commons Northeast Commercial, 18 lots on 33.93 acres, more or less, and being located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Highway 290 and FM 973, Manor, Texas.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions or comments to the motion?
I have one. Is it possible to not have a roundabout in the middle of this little space?
Yes, but there's nothing that says they have to choose, and so it's open for them to determine how they want the intersection to be.
So my question was, what's going to be in the middle of that roundabout?
I'm not sure if there's really anything in it. They don't have construction plans in yet. All they have is their concept plan. So it may just be slightly raised. I don't think they're planning anything grand within it.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been up to like Shadowland Elementary, kind of behind there. They have a little roundabout. Probably be similar to that.
Okay.
Other questions?
Are they gonna do, what about trees in that area? Are they gonna do that or fees? I was confused.
There's nothing right now that's a tree in lieu. So each property would be responsible for the required number of trees, which for commercial, it's usually 2 trees per 600 square feet of landscape area. And each property is supposed to have 15% of landscape area. It generally kind of works out with that to 22 trees per acre.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No more questions?
I do. I'm sorry. Look, first, is this too early to have that discussion about whether or not the lots will connect in a certain way for the commercial spaces?
They will be. I've verified it with the developer that their pad sites have cross connections, and that's planned for.
Okay, that makes me like the roundabout just a little bit more.
Any more questions? No more questions? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 24, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a revised subdivision concept plan for New Haven, 261 lots on 91 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Greg Lane and FM 973, Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this is the one where they updated the planning and development zoning because they modified their street layout, but it also reduced their lot count from 272 to 261, and also increased the park and open space acreage a little bit. And those changes were substantial enough that they had to refile the concept plan and preliminary plat. This concept plan has been approved by engineers. Planning Commission has approved it, so we're recommending approval. The only modification to the motion, should you be inclined to approve it, is also non-discretionary, was just adding that on future or following plats and plans that the agreed to sub out for the adjacent property is provided, street sub out is provided, and wastewater easement.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I would like to make a motion that we approve the revised subdivision concept plan for New Haven, 261 lots on 91 acres more or less, and being located near the intersection of Greg Lane and FM 973, Maynard, Texas, with the stub out that has been discussed, also the wastewater easement that has been discussed with the neighbor.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace, or second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Hill. Are there any questions or comments to the motion?
Question. Since we were talking about before the naming of streets, Is that going to apply to this, or are these set?
They would have already gotten their street names approved through the city of Austin. So that was, I'm not familiar with the policy, if it includes street names. I don't know if it's on tonight's agenda or not, but yeah, the way naming streets works, there's additional things to it, but the process right now is the developers provide street names to the city of Austin 911 Address Management Services, who assigns all of the addresses pretty much in Travis County and here in Manor. And then they verify that the street name is in duplicate or close to any additional or existing street in Travis County. And they also have a list of already prohibited names because they are so duplicate or close sounding. And so the developers go back and forth with the city of Austin to nail down all their street names. And when they do preliminary plats, they're required at that stage already have all their street names approved. And so if the council was inclined to want to be in that process, you may be seeing like the multiple iterations of it, because if you review it and propose street names, they take it to Austin. Austin may say no, and then they have to come back to you all, get new names, and then back and forth. It's doable. It would just add time to the process, and I think City of Austin with addressing takes like 3 months now.
Any other questions? No questions? Okay, there be none, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, it's 5-1. Motion passes. Number 25, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a specific use request for one lot on 1.273 acres more or less being located at 13105 FM 1100, Manor, Texas, to allow for a 14,020 square foot general retail Mexican market building, 6 MPDs, 3 diesel MPDs, and associated parking and driving aisles.
Sure. So this item has been before you, I believe it was last month. There was no discussion on it though at the time. It went to Planning Commission. They did make recommendations and they conducted the public hearing, and they recommended to the developer to take the fuel canopy and put it to the side of the building and turn it 90 degrees, add EV parking, prohibit overnight truck parking. They wanted to see their traffic improvements that they were planning on 290 and FM 1100, and then they requested that the diesel pumps be removed. The developer revised the site plan to show all that. They did retain the diesel pumps. They felt, so they added a center turn lane to FM 1100. So when it gets to the intersection, there's a left and then a through and a right. And there's a deceleration lane on 290. And a lot of the concerns from the Planning Commission regarding the large vehicles was the turning radius coming out of it, with 1100 only being 2 lanes. They were concerned a tractor trailer may not have the radius, and either take it very slowly or may have to back up and do a 3-point turn. And so that was a big part of their rationale for just saying no diesel, because then they would avoid the large vehicles. But with the developer increasing the width of 1100 and adding the turn lane at the intersection, they felt that allowed for the safer movement of the larger vehicle, so they kept the diesel in there. So when it back to Planning Commission last week, they did vote to approve it as shown, because the request was initially for 6 fuel pumps, which are the multi-sided ones, and 3 diesel pumps. They increased it to 8 fuel pumps and 4 diesel pumps. And so the Planning Commission did have a discussion of keeping it at the original request of 6 and 3, but they did approve it at the 8 and 4. So if you're inclined to also take the recommendation, you can keep it at 8 gas pumps and the 4 diesel pumps. That would just have to be in your motion, because again, the request and the way it's posted is for 6. It has changed. So yes, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. The applicant representative is also here.
Do you have a motion on the floor? Is there a motion? Do you have a motion for number 25?
I'll also add, this is filed concurrently with the zoning and annexation applications, which so if you were to approve this tonight, at your next meeting would be the second reading of this, but also second reading for annexation and second reading for the zoning of the property. If this fails, those go away. And the zoning may be refiled, but I believe they wouldn't file to annex the 1.2 acres at the intersection. So that would remain in our ETJ.
Can I get a motion?
How many EV bumps did you say they're willing?
There'll be 3.
Does that need to be in the motion?
Yes. So with the motion, you would include the recommendations or any modification that you want. So the gas canopy being on the side of the building turned 90 degrees, the number of fuel pumps and diesel pumps and EV spaces, and the traffic improvements as shown and approved by TxDOT.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I would like to make a motion that we approve the site layout commercial tractor trailer. Oh, wait. Yeah, this one doesn't sound right. No.
Can I get a motion for 25 on the floor?
Okay, I'm gonna try this. I don't know if it's gonna be proper, but here we go. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the site layout with no overnight parking, tractor trailer, big rig parking, and any other requirements than approve a specific use permit lot on what? Okay, specific use per request for one lot on 1.273 acres more or less and being located at FM 13105. Wait, being located at 13105 FM 1100 Manor, Texas, to allow that it include a 14,020 square foot general retail and Mexican market building 6 MPDs, 3 diesel pumps, 3 EV pumps with the canopy on the other side of the building at a 90-degree angle. With associated parking and drive aisles.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Now, are there any questions or comments?
Councilmember, just so that we are clear with your motion, you are not necessarily recommending everything that P and Z recommended, correct?
Change the gas and diesel pumps.
P and Z did change it.
P&Z approved what was sent in. The motion was for 6 and 3.
Right. So just wanted to make sure that with the original.
With the original pump layout with the EV pumps added.
Okay. So, okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question, I guess more to ask. Why the original with less gas pumps, less diesel?
Okay, for me, the less diesel would be less trucks. And the less gas pumps is because there are other stations around there as well. What the concern was basically not having the EV pumps be available. And because they were given the road improvements, they decided to up the ante with more stuff. But the road improvements would have to be done anyway. So I didn't feel that they needed to have more pumps. Especially if everybody's concern is the traffic in that area.
Are there any other questions?
So all this that was under recommended approval with conditions, that was approved by P&Z?
Yes.
Any more questions?
I do. Again, I guess just with the recommendation, did we go with the 90-degree turn of the gas canopy? Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, there be none. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, let's do that again. All in favor? All opposed? Motion fails, 3 and 3. Right.
The motion has failed for a different recommendation that was recommended from P&Z. So it either you make another motion for a different outcome or a motion to deny, but it has not been denied.
Okay.
Me personally, I would like to go with what P&Z approved.
Okay, I make a motion to go with what P&Z approved. Do I have to read that, the whole thing?
No.
As I'd like to make a motion that we go with the recommendation from P&Z on this item.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any other questions? No other questions? All in favor? All opposed? Still 3 and 3. So it fails. Okay, motion does fail. Number 26, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a pump and haul agreement with Madtex LP for the Lone Star Development.
So this is the property over there in the Manor Commercial Park, and you see it if you're driving down 290. There's some pretty big concrete buildings that are in construction. So this is for those two properties. This is related to the next item on your agenda as well. They're the same thing. It's just they're separate properties. They're under the same owner, but they have different partnerships. So they're doing an agreement with each partnership, but they are the same agreement. So obviously they're under construction. The city will, through their development agreement with the properties, we'll be providing wastewater service by next summer. They wanted to annex into the city because they were having difficulty getting Travis County permits, and so they annexed ahead of our wastewater schedule. And you know, they were initially planning to install their septic system, which was approved through the county, until our wastewater was provided. They're looking now to not install that system and have a temporary system, because we're only about a little over a year away from having a permanent wastewater system. And so through this pump and haul agreement, it allows them to have that temporary septic system. So it's a lot cheaper and more economical for them. There's no cost to the city. They have to have a hauler that, you know, is approved and, you know, has all the proper permits and takes the waste to where it needs to go. So there's really minimal risk to the city, and we just have to provide that wastewater service by next year.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a pump and haul agreement with Madtex LP for the Lone Star Development.
Motion made by Councilmember Amasqua. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Moreno. Are there any questions to the motion?
I have a question. Scott, did you say that within a year we'll be able to do this ourselves? And so we don't have to, is there a termination on this, or does it just come up annually?
This agreement terminates when the permanent wastewater is provided. It's their development agreement has the June 2025 date in it, but this agreement says it's just until that service is provided.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 27, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a pump and haul agreement with EasyJet LP for the Lone Star Development.
Same thing as the prior one, just different owner or partnership name, same owner, same everything. So.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a pump and haul agreement with EasyJet LP for the Lone Star Development.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 28, consideration, discussion, and possible action on the City of Maynard, Texas deposit agreement for the proposed water service transfer for the Platinum 973 LLC project.
Sure. So this is about a 3-acre property that's just south of Compass Rose. So it's in Manville's water service area. They've already gotten approval from Manville's board to decertify and connect to the city's water system. We already have a water line that's installed in front of the property that Compass Rose installed for them to connect to. And this deposit agreement provides funds for any legal and engineering expenses we incur for the transfer agreement. So here in the next like month or two, or at some point in the future, the transfer agreement will come to y'all for approval, and then Manville, again, their board's already consented to the release, so they'll approve the transfer agreement, and that gets filed with the PUC, and then the water service, the property can take city water.
Do I have a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the City of Maynard, Texas deposition agreement for the proposed water service transfer for the Platinum 973 LLC project located at 13801 North FM 973, Maynard, Texas, with the Platinum 973 LLC, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions? None, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 29, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance closing, vacating, and abandoning a portion of street right-of-way commonly known as Old Maynard Taylor Road, consisting of 0.171 acres, approximately 7,432 square feet, in the Summer Bacon Survey number 62 in Travis County, Texas, authorizing conveyance to abutting property owners in proportion to abutting ownership, providing for findings of fact, and authorizing conveyance of such abandoned right-of-way by special warranty deed.
Sure. So this right away, it's right near the north portion of Suncrest and FM 973, so kind of heading up towards Stonewater. There's two houses that are on it, and this right away functionally acts as their driveway. The city's not maintained the road since it's been within the city limits since 2017. I think it's 2017. Yes. And prior to that, I don't think the county's ever maintained it. It's on surveys and everything, it's labeled as abandoned county right of way. But there are discrepancies in the surveying and the actual sort of alignment of this road. And so through this process, we're actually saying like what the right of way is and then what we're vacating. So it is actually cleaning up that property record to move forward. But it is just a small portion. Those two houses, the Velasquez's, Henrietta and Frank Velasquez, they use it. Again, it's in that area just north of Stonewater, kind of near Suncrest and FM 973. This is from the Okra subdivision. So the yellow is where the road is, which is being vacated. And then the remainder portion of the right-of-way, which is on Okra's property, they aren't using. So it'll actually be a space between the back of the houses and what will be the Velasquez property. And they'll be putting a sidewalk trail through that because there's a trail that ends out of Shadow Glen, and they'll be extending that to connect to their main entrance road. You can see it there at the top. They call it Vidalia Street. So Okra still functionally uses the right-of-way for that, sidewalk easement, but they're not planning any roads or anything like that in there. But the portion that's being vacated is what's on the Velasquez property, which includes the street, which we've been working with, or the developer's been working with Austin Addressing to have that road reassigned as a private road, so that way their address doesn't change. Because if it gets a driveway, then they're technically to driveway off Vidalia Street. But renaming it a private road, the Velasquez's could keep Old Maynard Taylor and just have it signed as private. So that's what's working now, just to less inconvenience. But the Velasquez's, they agree to the release and all of this, and the easements that were on your consent agenda were also related to that, because at the very northern portion of it, we retain a portion of right-of-way because the Vidalia Street goes through there. And at the very southern end, there's a small portion where a wastewater line will cross, so we retain an easement. So the right-of-way itself, the land gets vacated, but there'll be a small easement that goes through there to serve that whole northwest part of the city with wastewater. And so
and they'll have the same access, the family will?
Yes. Yeah, so they're yes, so it'll come off the new street, but because that new road where their driveway is, you can see it there where it comes off of 973. That's going to be the main entrance for the Okra subdivision. So rather than their street driveway kind of having that sharp turn to connect to 973, it'll just connect to Vidalia.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 743, closing, vacating, and abandoning a portion of a street right-of-way commonly known as Old Maynard Taylor Road, consisting of 0.171 acres, approximately 7,432 square feet, under Summer Bacon Survey number 62 in Travis County, Texas, authorizing conveyance to abutting property owners in proportion to abutting ownership, providing for findings of fact, and authorizing conveyance of such abandoned right-of-way by special warranty deed.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wallace. Are there any questions to the motion? There are no questions. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 30, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance closing, vacating, and abandoning a portion of street right-of-way commonly known as Old Maynard Taylor Road, consisting of 0.143 acres, approximately 6,235 square feet, in the Sumner Bacon Survey number 62 in Travis County, Texas, authorizing conveyance to abutting property owners in proportion to abutting ownership, providing for findings of facts, and authorizing conveyance of such abandoned right-of-way by special warranty deed.
Sure. So this is the same as the previous item, but since it's two properties, there's the Henrietta Velasquez property and the Frank Velasquez property, there's an ordinance for each. And so this one is for the Henrietta property, but it's the same as the previous one.
Is there a motion on the floor?
So I gotta read this whole thing again? As read. Okay, got you. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, I'd like to approve ordinance number 744 as read by Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wallace. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 31, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a naming policy for city-owned property and facilities in the city of Maynard. Mr. Moore? Oh, okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council Members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. If you recall, y'all had asked your legal team to bring back a naming policy for your review and discussion. Although it is set up for potential action by you, we are asking for direction. So not necessarily to approve the policy. We took a stab and looked at various naming policies from other jurisdictions and wanted to bring this to you to just discuss with you. Specifically, when we were discussing the Councilmember Moreno had asked about the street naming, we purposely did not include street naming on there because we already knew that there was a process with the city of Austin. What can happen is that we could include renaming of streets, you know, when someone comes back in for renaming of streets, because that does happen every once in a while. You would still go through the process with City of Austin because that's who does it. It's the 911 service. But we could include something like that if you were interested in that. But the reason that we did not include the street, the original street, was not just as Scott mentioned, you can go through that process if you wanted to through the preliminary plat, but I needed to remind you, and I decided to wait, not tell you this when the other agenda item was up. Needed to remind you that if you recall, state statute now has that 30-day requirement that you have to act upon. So if we added an additional layer and process, I guarantee that someone would be going to the state legislature and asking that cities not be involved in naming if they don't need to be, or something like that, or reduce the time for the review. So so with that, I just wanted to make you aware of the potential possible feedback or pushback from developers with regard to that. But again, the policy is there for you to review, to give us direction, and to bring it back to you. If there was something that you did not see in there based on the discussions that we've had in the past, by all means let us know, and we will definitely address it if you didn't see it addressed there. And again, we would rather bring it back to you again, unless you completely agree with our draft. And then you definitely could take action tonight.
Sorry. So when you say renaming
right
city streets, how does that work if somebody wanted to appeal that? Is that, or is, when you say rename, is that final? The city has the final say so, and that's it. No one can come back and.
The city wouldn't have a final approval, because again, you're still having to go through the process of going through the 911 center for the renaming, but the city would have input on the renaming. And that is something that we could contact 911 center and just say, look, the city has policy. So if someone comes directly to you, but I don't think they can go directly. Go ahead.
So this has kind of come up before. We have two Andrew Johnsons, which was not any fault of ours. It was actually 911. So there's one in Presidential Meadows and one in Presidential Glen. The one in Presidential Glen is a larger road. The one in Presidential Meadows is a cul-de-sac that has like 15 houses on it. The one in Presidential Meadows was actually approved first, but the one in Presidential Glen was built first. And so when Presidential Meadows went to go build theirs, we flagged it and said, you have two of the same streets. One is a street, one is a road, but they're both Andrew Johnson, I believe. And what 911 addressing said to us was the property owners on the street have to agree to the new street name. So we could have put forward one, but it was up to the property owners to agree to it, as since they are the ones that are addressed as that. So we could always dig into it more and see, hey, if the city's the one wanting to rename it, or we have an interest in it. How much input do you need from the residents on the street? But the city of Austin, they may have their policy that a majority of the property owners who are assigned an address with that street name have to approve of it.
Okay, I have a question. If we were to get our own 911 call center, would this be an issue still?
So the call center's separate from the addressing department, so we would have to get like a whole GIS department and do all the addressing. And right now, knock on wood, it's free. The city of Austin does not charge us. They may charge the developers who apply, but I don't believe they do that either. But cities do have their own addressing, but it would be a large expense for us.
So what I'm hearing is it's going to be real hard to have an Ann Weir way in the future.
Just buy up all the properties on it.
Only if the developers were the ones that submitted that to the city of Austin. But again, Councilmember Wallace, it could happen, but again, it's the city, once the city's larger and has money in the coffers to actually have, like your development director has said, a GIS department that could actually take on that role. So, and I guess I'll just explain it this way, that, I mean, the city contracts with not just City of Austin, but Traps County for different purposes that City of Manor at this time cannot meet. That doesn't necessarily mean that at a later date City of Maynard will be able to meet it and no longer need those services.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Was the naming and renaming was it this policy for the purpose of mostly naming or renaming our city street?
It wasn't the policy again, it wasn't the guidance that we received was just a naming policy in general. And so what I'm trying to do right now in the explanation on why we did not provide street naming, the background for that, but it contains naming of facilities. We can address if at some point, because you never know, later on in the future you might want to rename a facility, even if it's been named already. So if that's not addressed, we can certainly do the renaming in the various sections that we have in the policy.
Tell me again why we can't name our own streets. It's all strictly just the 911.
No. So the process, and Scott knows more of how the process works, but you actually have the developers go during the subdivision review process with the concept plans and preliminary plat, because the city has, is it an ILA that city has with City of Austin? They're just required to do that then. Yeah. Because there is no ILA. It's a requirement for 911 purposes and addressing, because this is something that the City of Austin offers, and it would be needed in order to be able to have those emergency services provided. So you go to the City of Austin, the developers right now from Manor go to the City of Austin to get the naming of streets. Manor could put themselves in the process, like Scott mentioned when Councilmember Moreno brought it up, and the preliminary plat part of the review of the subdivision. But you will be adding a layer, and so this is where your legal counsel is saying you could do that, but just be aware that there could be pushback because there was, developers have gone already to the legislature previously to make sure that everything is being reviewed within 30 days when it comes to platting. So if that's the case, then the process would be quick. If not, you really won't have an opportunity to interject on the naming of streets, because there is already a process that they're wanting to go through. They're already taking a while. I think Scott mentioned that it takes about 3 months with the City of Austin to actually, for developers to get their streets approved. So if you're adding another layer, another month or 2 weeks, we don't know if that would be something significant for developers that they might provide some pushback, or they may not. But again, that was the recommendation. So that's why we did not address street naming in the policy that you have in front of you. Okay.
Sorry. So the City of Austin, they do have a policy for street renaming, but it is consistent with what we've heard from Address Management Services. And so if the petition for renaming a street is initiated by council or city department or property owner on that street, the minimum threshold is 50% of all the property owners on the street before the City of Austin will take action on that petition. It says if you can get 100% of property owners on the street to agree to it, they waive the public hearing and they just sort of go into the renaming process with the Address Management Services. But
maybe having like the naming committee or whatever, however that process is going to look like when we're doing the platting, that they consider our approved names or whatever.
So if you wanted like a list of potential names that they can draw from,
Yes.
yeah, if y'all wanted to have a list of names that we can give to developers, typically what we see in like those master plan communities, they pick a theme often. So okra is actually all vegetables. It's interesting, Village of Manor Commons is birds, and we have presidents and presidents' wives and senators. Yeah. But yeah, so that's if they have their theme for their subdivision. The point is they may not want, something off theme, but we definitely incorporate it into the process because, like I said, right now, the street names are required at the preliminary plat stage. So that way, when they get into final plats, it's sort of already set. But maybe with the concept plan, they can provide sort of their proposed street names, and those can be reviewed. And if there's any that, the council feels is, just doesn't fit what the community should be, maybe you can strike those. So before they even submit, you can just say, I don't like, these two or these three, whatever it is. And that could just be part of our subdivision process for concept plans. It's asking for just their list of proposed street names. Doesn't mean that, again, the ones that you suggest or what gets forwarded is what's approved by addressing, but at least gives you some eyes on what they're planning.
It may also be easier, Councilmember Mesqua, to provide a list of what's prohibited. What is it that the city would, not what's prohibited, but that would rather not see. And so that's also something that we could include. But again, it's for street naming, it would be a suggestion.
I would say, Mayor Pro Tem, just with the Manor Crossing, that development, there was some back and forth that we had. We were able to kind of get that resolved, and then that sparks Ron, that area out there, the Eagles nesting. We had to go back and forth, but it was more down to the 911 addressing. Once we were able to get the addressing figured out, then we could come up with a name that wasn't anywhere else in this area. So I think the addressing is really important, but it's also if it's a name like an area that can maybe get annexed in, then we can try to make sure those people's addresses don't get altered too much. But just to make sure we have a process in which if they come to us, we can work with City of Austin in this case to make sure things can remain in place if possible without having a whole change and people having to change all their bills and all that.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Or if you would like to provide any type of direction, Mayor Pro Tem, to us on the policy, if y'all had items that you'd like to see.
I think I would be okay with renaming. Just seems like the ties, it just seems like certain things we're unable to sever ties on certain things, which is really my concern, so that the city can be able to do its own, have its own, not have to rely on the bigger city to make these decisions for us. But however, I think renaming is better than nothing at all. So I would be flexible with something like that in the policy, and that's just me personally. Can I get a motion?
For clarification, what were you saying? What are you saying that something else should be added in to what's here?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing, because again, the policy that's before you, we did not address street naming, and it actually says that right at the beginning that this does not include street naming. So we can come back to you with steps for renaming, and we'll look at what the City of Austin's policy is so that we wouldn't run afoul when we go to addressing and include renaming process.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we give staff direction to come back with a process for renaming of streets added to the current policy that they have provided.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Weir. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. The City Council will now convene into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Sections 551.071 and 551.072 Texas Government Code, and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, to consult with legal counsel and to deliberate the purchase of real property. Sections 551.071 Texas Government Code and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, to consult with legal counsel regarding shadow blend PUD. Section 551.071 Texas Government Code and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, to consult with legal counsel regarding counsel compensation, and Section The time is now 11:10. The City Council will now reconvene into open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code and take action, if any, on items discussed during the closed executive session. Number 32, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance amending ordinance number 724, establishing compensation for the mayor and city council and a structured policy and procedure process. Do I have a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone item number 32 to the June 5th City Council meeting.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wallace. Are there any questions to the motion? Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 33, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a resolution requesting the release of a portion of the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Austin, Texas, consisting of a 146.920 acre tract, more or less, for extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Maynard, Texas. Do I have a motion?
Does this one need a motion or is it to give direction as given? Just as it's written on here? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-16 requesting the release of a portion of the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Austin, Texas, consisting of 146.920 acres tract, more or less, to the extraterritorial jurisdiction to the city of Maynard, Texas.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Amasqua. Are there any questions?
This is just to send the letter. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any questions to the motion? All in favor? Motion passes. Time now is 11:13 p.m. and this council meeting is adjourned.